super loud. Pupper was just barking, and he has very high-pitched barks. Do you ever think of really weird things? Like, I was thinking about, the dance. What's that movie? I can never remember. What's the movie, babe, that I can never remember the name to? No, not that one. Napoleon Dynamite. The end scene in Napoleon Dynamite where he goes on because his friend Pedro is running for president, and he does that silly dance at the end, but it ends up being, like, awesome. For some reason, I was replaying that dance in my head tonight, wondering if I could learn it. And then I thought if I learned it, that would suck because I don't know where I would perform it. Because if you know something like that, you got to perform it. But I can't perform it because I'm not that ballsy, I guess. Hey, guys. So tonight, hey, Jackie. So tonight we're talking about joint pain and inflammation. If this is your first time joining me, my name is Sunny Brigham. And like I said last week, I make weird things with my hands and my arms. I don't know why. I'm just an outward talker like that. Only when I'm talking on live. When I'm talking at home, I'm just like constantly like this. It's really weird. It's like a different person comes out. Anywho, so tonight we're talking about joint pain and inflammation. I think I started to introduce myself, but I don't remember. Sunny Brigham, board certified clinical and integrative nutritionist, office in Fort Worth, blah, blah, blah. Just because I don't remember what I said a minute ago. And the dog's running around with toys in his mouth like a little kid. It's pretty funny. He wants to play. So tonight we're talking about joint pain and inflammation, and we're going to talk about how the two of them, I'm sorry, just 1 second. Sorry. Okay, we're good now. Joint pain and digestion. Sorry, if there is a lot going on, I have like severe ADD, and I'm like, ooh, dogs, ball. I'm like a kid, like I want to see everything that's going on. So tonight we're talking about joint pain and digestion. I've said that 100 times, and now I've got it right. So joint pain and digestion. So when we have joint pain, a lot of people are quick to think, okay, well, how did I hurt myself? How can I relate this back to an injury that I had? But then when they can't find an injury, the next thing that they try to do is chalk it up to old age. And I hear that a lot. It's just like a lot of things I see, people will try to create a genetic lineage to it when maybe there isn't one there. So what people don't do is they don't think about the foods that they're putting in their mouth and how that relates to joint pain. And they absolutely should. And I'm going to go through all the mechanisms of how it all happens. But I can tell you this, when I eat something that I know that I shouldn't eat, I have a random hair in my face right now. So when I eat something that I know I shouldn't eat, it's really weird. Happens usually within 30 to 45 minutes of it happening. This knuckle and this knuckle will start to hurt. It's almost like the best way to describe the pain is if you're trying to open a jar that's been screwed on super tight and you're like pulling and pulling and pulling, and you just like end up like you get it open, but it hurts your hand afterwards. That's how my hand feels after I eat something that I know that I shouldn't. I don't always know what that food is because, and I've talked about this before, super crazy, weird digestive stuff happens with me. And at any given point, at any given time, a food that I ate yesterday will now cause me problems today. Super weird, super annoying, but at least I know, okay, well, what did I eat yesterday? I can start to trace it back to what I ate before and try to figure out what food is causing me issues. So let's talk about joint pain and digestion. If you haven't read the blog yet, I did pin the blog. I didn't pin it, but I put it in the little comment dealios. I should really learn what these things are called so that I can actually use the terminology, make myself look smart. So I put the blog in there. If you haven't yet read it yet, definitely take a read. And so let's dive into joint pain. So the first thing that we need to talk about is inflammation in the body. Inflammation is there. It happens. Now let's chat about how it gets there. Your immune system, and I've talked about this before, about 80% of it lies within the digestive tract, and it's there for a good reason. It's there to neutralize all of the pathogens and junk and dirt and bugs and everything else that's on the food that we put inside of our mouth hole. It goes into the body. The hydrochloric acid in the stomach helps to neutralize it. Then it makes its way into the digestive tract, and they help to neutralize anything that the hydrochloric acid didn't get to. And so if you think about on the surface of the skin, right? Let's say you get a cut. The first day it's painful because, you just sliced your hand open. But then the next day you wake up and it is gnarly. It's inflamed, it's red, it's painful. That's your immune system kicking off the inflammatory response. It's sending all of the molecules and cells and everything and all the, things that it sends to the surface that I can't remember the names of right now, to patch it shut, to create blood clotting factors, to make sure that no critters or bugs or anything like that gets in there and creates an infection inside the body. Now, if the immune system is coming to the surface of the skin anytime you get a cut, imagine what's happening inside of the digestive tract every time you eat something that your body doesn't agree with. Now, everybody's foods that creates an inflammatory response are going to be completely different than the next person. I have clients that can't eat romaine lettuce. I mean, of all things, right? I have another one that can't have lentils. So, I can't have flax. I now have a sensitivity to flax and olives, flax and olives. So of all things, of all healthy things that we tell people to eat all the time, I can't consume them because my body has deemed them as not good things. And so anytime I consume that food or anybody consumes a food that's inflammatory to the body, it kicks off the immune system, it activates the immune system, which kicks off the inflammatory response. Now, in a bubble, one-time off thing, that really isn't that big of a deal. So if I went like 2-3 months without having flax and all of a sudden I had flaxseed, not that big of a deal. I'm going to feel like crud. I'm going to have some bloating, probably some loose stools, headache, fatigue, maybe my hand will hurt. But as long as I stay away from flax moving forward, my body will heal just fine. It's not going to be a big issue. Now, if I continued to have flax the next day and the day after and the day after and the day after, what happens is I've kicked off the immune system so much that my body is just on overdrive. It's overactivation of the immune system, which is inflammation, 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 inflammation. And so the digestive tract never heals. And imagine if you had that cut on the surface of your skin and it just never heals and it gets angrier and angrier and angrier. That's what happens inside the digestive tract. And now when we have overactivation of the immune system leading into inflammation in the body, eventually you are going to feel that elsewhere, i.e. the joints. People will get headaches, people will get tired. Usually knee pain is the one that I hear most people complain about most often. And it's also the one that's easiest to relate to something else. I stood too much today. I walked too much today. I sat too much today. I'm old. I ran yesterday. I worked out too hard at the gym. I must have bent it when I was sleeping. I banged it on something. It's the easiest one to relate to some sort of injury that probably didn't happen. What people don't relate it to is that there's a ton of inflammation happening inside their body that needs to be addressed. And you address that by removing the inflammatory foods, allowing your body to calm down. Now, joint pain isn't the only issue that happens when you have foods, if you continue to eat foods that you shouldn't. Joint pain isn't the only one. It's just one of them. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, bloating, headache, fatigue, all of those things that we just talked about. All of those are symptoms of overactivation of the immune system leading to inflammation in the body. But tonight we're talking about joint pain. So let's see. So inflammatory foods, like I talked about. So there's two ways. Whenever I see this in the office, when I see overt signs of it or signs that maybe aren't totally out there, they're not, in the realm that it should be for everybody. Everybody's going to react a little bit different. But whenever I think somebody is probably consuming something that's creating excess inflammation in the body, I approach them with one of two methods that we can do. The first one is to do an elimination diet. And so that removes, 10 to 12 foods that are common inflammatory foods for the body. For most people will see benefits from removing these foods. Some people won't see benefits from removing these foods. For instance, like myself, I don't eat a good majority of those foods. So if I remove them, I still would not see a lot of benefit. But because my body reacts to things that are considered healthy, like flax and olives, I would still consume those on an elimination diet. But if you consume a standard American diet or a highly processed diet, or you eat a lot of things from packages, boxed foods, et cetera, you are going to benefit from an elimination diet. The other avenue that I offer is doing food sensitivity testing. So that way you can find out unequivocally what foods your body is reacting to, and you can work to eliminate those foods to allow the gut to do its healing process, allow the inflammation to calm down so that you can start losing weight. You don't feel the joint pain, you don't feel the headaches, you don't feel the fatigue. So those foods are, and I've talked about these before, but these are sugar, eggs, dairy, gluten, pork, beef, caffeine, processed meats, soy, and corn. Those are the top aggravators. So sugar, eggs, people are always surprised by eggs, but egg whites is a really common food sensitivity. It's also a very common food allergy as well. Dairy, gluten, so gluten grains are spelt, barley, wheat, and rye. Pork, beef, caffeine. Caffeine includes coffee, tea, and chocolate. Processed meats, so hot dogs, lunch meats, cured meats, those sorts of things, soy, and then corn. So if you consume a fairly standard American diet, cutting those out, usually in a week or so, you start to feel so much better. The joint pain starts to dissipate. The headaches start to go away. You start feeling more energized. You're able to do things that you haven't been able to do. You start to think clearer. But like I said, that doesn't help for everybody. But those are the common inflammatory foods that most people consume. Let's see. So I'm just making sure that I checked everything off my list of all the stuff I wanted to talk about tonight. So inflammation can be related to joint pain. And yes, joint pain comes from inflammation, right? If you bang your knee on the table, there's going to be some, broken blood vessels, probably some inflammation at the site, right? But if you can't think of an injury that you had, think elsewhere. Don't write it off as I stood too long, I sat too long, I moved too much, I ran, or I'm old. Think of it as, okay, what other symptoms of inflammation in the body am I experiencing? Do I have an inability to lose weight? Do I feel like I never get sick or I get sick too much? Do I have any bloating? How's my fatigue? Do I have headaches? Do I have an inability to concentrate? Do I get acid reflux? How are my stools? So there's a ton of other things that you need to think about. But if you have joint pain, I encourage you to think about inflammation in the body. So don't just think about I hit my knee or I did something to my hand or I must have opened that jar wrong. Think of it as what else could it possibly be? Do I have systemic inflammation? And I bet you'll find your answer. Most people, it's not just I injured myself. Let's see. It's a quick short night, right? 13 minutes. Yes. I like when I do good. Should give myself a pat on the back more often. I don't see any questions. If you haven't read the blog yet, I would definitely read the blog. I just got sidetracked because I can't believe how dark it is. Next week, we're going to talk about a super, super, super fun topic. It's called fire cider. So everybody going into the fall season, cold and flu season, everybody thinks about elderberry syrup. I'm going to talk to you about fire cider, completely different, opposite of elderberry, kind of does the same thing, really works well in the sinuses. And so I'm going to write about it. I'm going to show you how to make it next week. So I'm excited about that one. Aside from that, if you have any questions about inflammation, food sensitivities, anything like that, post them below. I check the comments even after the video's ended, and I will be more than happy to answer them for you. Make sure that you read the blog as well. You might be surprised if you learn something. And I will see you guys next Tuesday night. Bye.